This year was a very good year for our bird count. The weather cooperated and we had 265 people out combing the streets and forests of Victoria looking for all the birds they could find. We ended up at the end of the day with 144 species of birds, which was the best we've done in several years, but not our record. Our record was 154, and we had the highest number of individual birds that we've counted since 2006, at about 85,000 birds. Our highest ever was around 125,000. So you can see that things have changed. We are at Esquimalt Lagoon, which is one of the best zones in the Victoria Christmas Bird Count Circle for species diversity. Some of the ducks that we've seen here today are the mallards. Everyone's familiar with them with the bright green heads. But we also have American widgeon, otherwise known as bald pate because they have a white stripe down the top of their heads. A common golden eye, where the males have a little dime-shaped circle on the side of their face, and northern pintail, beautiful birds with very long tails, and the males have a chocolate brown head with a white streak up the back. We had a number of birds break records this year. We had over 1,100 Anna's hummingbirds, and we had ducks that broke records. We had Canada geese that broke records, which some people won't be so happy about. Northern flickers, we had the highest number, and Steller's jays. Lots of birds broke records, and so you think, oh, that's really, really good. But then when I looked at the data and analyzed how many of our species had fewer than 25% of their highest number, 48 of the 144 species had fewer than 25% of the record high we'd recorded on a Christmas bird count. Obviously, things that humans are doing are causing changes that do affect birds. And one of the ones that people don't think about a lot is the loss of insects. All birds, whether they're seed eaters or insect eaters, during certain times of the year rely on insects. If you think of what birds feed their babies, they all feed insects. And the population of insects in the world has declined immensely. We see this affecting birds that are very common to us, like the barn swallow, which is now on the threatened list in Canada. So why are the insects dying? The insects are dying as a result of changing climate and agricultural practices, pesticide use, industrialization, habitat loss, all sorts of things. Birds have additional challenges with human intervention, if you like, by hitting our structures, our houses, our buildings, our telephone wires, and also our pets. Whether it's cats actually catching birds, dogs chasing them on beaches, harassing them, destroying nesting habitat. In the Greater Victoria area, we actually have 3 Christmas bird counts. Victoria is the biggest and has been around for the longest time, but we also have one that is the north end of the peninsula, Sydney and South Salt Spring Island. And this year they had about 112 species, so quite a bit fewer than Victoria. And then we have the Souk Christmas bird count, which extends from Machosen out to Souk. And boy, the weather was horrible. And not surprisingly, they didn't get as many species. They got just over 100 species. But one of the birds that showed up was right here, where we're standing at these feeders, was a Bullock's oriole, which is a very rare bird for the winter and even rare in the summer. Also, the only snowy owl that showed up on a Christmas bird count in the area this year. So that was very cool. So if you are going to have feeders in your yard, what is recommended is that you keep your feeders really close to your windows, like within a meter of your windows, or more than 10 meters away is the recommended distance. I maintain that most of our rare birds are going to show up at somebody's feeder. So I'm really actively trying to encourage people who don't want to go out in the rain and maybe don't want to go and walk for hours to submit us a feeder report. And we have the capacity for that at a website I've set up, christmasbirdcount.ca.